doing? Before I tell you the story about David today, it's a follow-up story from last week, we're going to play a game. And I'm going to show you. Okay, here we go. A week, forever, just a few minutes, and ages and ages. Okay? I'm going to ask you how long things last. I'm just laying them all out. And I'm going to give you a second. You shout out what you think. Is it just a few minutes, ages and ages, a week, or forever? Okay? So, first off, how long is it since I last saw you? That was an easy one. A week. Okay. How long does a chocolate bar last once you start to eat it? Now, I don't know about you, but in our house, just a few minutes. Okay, how long is it between Wednesday and the next Wednesday? Dead easy, just a week. Okay, how long is it for waiting till your next birthday? Ages and ages. How long is it when you're doing something you really like before your mum or your dad says, oh, you've got to go and come and do something else? Feels like just a few minutes, doesn't it? How long is it when you're waiting on Christmas Eve for it to be Christmas Day? That feels like ages and ages, doesn't it? How long is it since I've been able to hug any of you? Definitely ages and ages. How long will God love us? That's another easy one. Forever. That's the end of that game. And now we're going to think about David. Now, I sent some of you some pictures, so I hope you've got them because we're going to use them for the story. Okay, before we start the story, I wonder how noticing you are and how much you remember of last week. Can you see here? I wonder if you recognize these. Those are my special earrings that I had in my special box. Now, I have here a sort of tent thing where I've kept the special gold box. And if you remember, this special gold box had my box with my earrings and the necklace. Now, there's the necklace there. If I kept the earrings and the necklace in the box all the time, it wouldn't be very good, would it? Because, you know, what's the point in having them, really? So I take them out and I wear them, like now, when I think it's special. And that was much the same with that very special covenant box that David had brought back. Do you remember he'd brought back into Jerusalem? Well, imagine he had his beautiful box, and it's very, very hot and sunny. If he kept the beautiful box out, it would get bashed or whatever. So they had built, all the people of David's people had built a very special tent, beautiful tent, that they kept the special covenant box in. So that's where it was for just now. So we're just going to do a wee recap about thinking about David and how God had looked after him. So that's where those pictures came in. Because you might remember that David, to begin with, was a shepherd. And so David lived in the fields with the shepherds and the sheep. Now God had made David king. So he didn't live in a field anymore. He lived in a beautiful palace. And David thought to himself, do you know, I live in a beautiful building and God's special place, special covenant box is just kept in a tent. And so he had an idea. What do you think his idea was? Well, I'll tell you. His idea was to build a beautiful temple. He wanted to build a beautiful temple to put the special box in instead of just a tent. But the funny thing is, God said no. Why would God say no? I'll tell you why. God said, it's not in my plan for you to build the temple, David. I'm quite happy with it just being in a tent at the moment. And David, you have to learn to be patient. That's my plan. I made you king, and I'm very pleased that you live in a palace, but that is staying where it is. But I'll tell you something else, David. I do have a plan for you. And this is my plan. You, now, can you see, here is David, and behind David, there are lots and lots of people who look a bit like David. And God said, these are going to be all your descendants. That's like your children and your children's children and your children's children, and it goes on. And he said, David, not just that, you'll have lots of descendants. And they'll all be kings. And one of those kings will get to build the temple. Your son, Solomon, is going to build the temple. That's my plan. But David, there's more. Because one of your descendants, all the way down the line, is going to be a king. Not just a king for a little time, but a king forever. Just like God's love is forever. Who do you think the king was going to be? Of course you know. It's Jesus. God had planned all along that Jesus would come. Now here's the amazing thing about God's plan. Joseph, who was Jesus' father here on earth, was one of David's descendants. God had planned all that time before that David's line of children and children's children and children's children and children's children that went on for ages and ages would be the father on earth of the king forever. That's how amazing God's plans are. He doesn't just get up and think, oh, in just a few minutes I'll do something, and it doesn't take him just a week to plan out what he's going to do. God takes ages and ages to make his plans work forever. And because we know that, and because we can trust in God always, we know that his plans are the very best thing for all of us, because God's love is forever and ever. God's love is the best love, isn't it? Let's have a prayer about that, shall we? Close your eyes. Dear God, we know we can trust you because you have a plan for each one of our lives. It may seem like it's taking ages and ages for us to know what that plan is, but God, you have the plan forever, and you know the best plan for us. Teach us patience like you taught David, and be with us and help us to know that you love us through everything. Amen. So, that's David's story so far. Wee David was a shepherd, became a king, and then his descendants, his children's 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 children, became the father of the King forever. Jesus, what a fantastic plan. And I will see you in a week. Bye.